Happy Thanksgiving week. We are breaking down all three Thanksgiving Day games. Packers, Lions, Chiefs, Cowboys, Bengals, Ravens. Going into week 12, it kind of looked like this slate was a bit underwhelming, but now, after week 12, it looks kind of good. We will talk best bets for all three and plenty more. Ninja here with us as Iain MacMillan. He'll have a nice Thanksgiving Day parlay at the bottom of the video as well, so you want to stick around for that. Hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe button. Let us know what your favorite bet for Thanksgiving is down below. But iMac, let's get right into it here. We'll go in order. So we'll start with the Packers at the Lions. Detroit, a 3-point home fave. The total is 48.5. Three high totals for Thanksgiving as well. Very interesting. But iMac, there was a point in this season where it sort of seemed like a lot of talking heads were ready to crown Green Bay, at the very least in the NFC. Very good start to the season. Now, the record is still good, 7-3-1, but some of the performances have looked pretty dour. Plus 125 to win the division, plus 750 to win the NFC. Do you believe this Packers team is a contender?
Yes, absolutely a contender. Now, are they elite? I don't know, because I think right now, there's one elite team in the NFL, and it's the LA Rams. And outside of the Rams, I don't think there's another elite team. So they're just as good, if not better, than some of the other teams that kind of make up the second tier. Because if you're to tier them right now, it's Rams by themselves in the first tier. And then second tier, you have a pretty long list of teams. I think Seahawks belong there, Colts, Chiefs, Bills, Lions. Certainly the Packers are too. So I do think the Packers have had some kind of variance go against them a little bit, but still their underlying metrics still very good. Top 10 in just almost every single area you want to look in. 6th in total DVOA. Top 5 in net yards per play, 4th in net yards per play. So, the issue is they're going to have to get past the Rams at some point in the NFC side of the playoff bracket. So that's going to be a challenge. But in a one-game sample size, they're certainly good enough to beat the Rams. So, yeah, I still believe in the Packers. I think they've had some things go against them this season, but if they get hot at the right time, they have the chance to go on a deep run.
For the folks at home, do you think Green Bay is a contender? Let us know down below. I was listening to you rattle off those teams in that next tier down, iMac. No Philly? No Eagles? What's up?
Yes, no Eagles would be in the next tier. Yes.
Jahmyr Gibbs, I mean, we can't talk about the Lions without talking about this guy. Coming off an incredible performance, and even that is underselling it. Genuinely one of the all-time great statistical games. He joins LaDainian Tomlinson as the only players with 200-plus rushing yards, 10-plus catches in the same game. 582 yards and 6 touchdowns in his last 3 football games. Like, is he just an auto overbet on his player props? Like, when is the time to walk away from Gibbs props at this point?
I don't know if there is, not necessarily just because of how well he's been playing, but also I've been begging the Lions to just start giving him more carries than David Montgomery, because, forever it was always the 1-2 punch and they split the carries pretty evenly. But now, finally, in their last 2 games, Jahmyr Gibbs has played over 70% of snaps, 72.9% of snaps against the Eagles, 73.5% of snaps against the Giants. They're finally making him the primary running back. David Montgomery still has a role to play in that Lions offense, but Gibbs just has been the more effective back over the past 3 years. Even last year, he was averaging more than 1 yard per carry more than Montgomery, but they're still splitting the carries. I like that now they're finally letting him get the number of carries that a primary running back should get. One of my favorite ways to bet on Jahmyr Gibbs, and it cashed 3 or 4 times over this past week, is his longest rush of the game, because he's so explosive. Like, he rips off, it seems like, long runs all the time. I think he had, the over-under for last weekend's the Giants was 18.5. I think he had 3 carries longer than that. So that's kind of a sneaky way that I don't think the betting market is necessarily caught up to. Whereas, obviously, the rushing yards a little bit, rushing receiving yards a little bit. But over on his longest rush is always an interesting play for Jahmyr Gibbs.
18.5. Is that typically where the market is week to week? Like, is it in that ballpark? Because that seems super low. I mean, hindsight is 20/20, but that seems low.
Yeah, it is. And I don't think they have properly adjusted for his kind of explosiveness, paired with the fact that he's kind of getting over 70% of offensive snaps now. So I don't currently see what the line is for Thursday, at least at the book I'm looking at, but that's certainly one to keep an eye. If you can get it anywhere under 20, if it does get to 20, then I might pause a little bit on that. But I mean, if it's 18.5 again, against his Packers defense, I don't expect it to go up to 20. I expect it to be around 18.5, 17.5 again. So take the over on that.
Let's get to your pick for Packers lines. And as I sit here now, we've gone inside a field goal. So it's Lions -2.5 now, -112 on that. The total 48.5, the over -115. I mean, there's plenty of names. We've talked about a few in terms of prop markets, tons of betting potential with this one, NFC North, all of that. But what are you looking at for this game?
I love the under. If you can get it at 49.5, I think there's still a 49.5 out there. I think both these defenses are underrated, specifically the Lions defense. I know the Lions defense didn't have a good game against Jameis Winston this past weekend, but overall, when you think the Lions, you kind of think their offense, but their defense has quietly been the best defense they've had in the Dan Campbell era. They're 5th in defensive DVOA, top 10 in opponent EPA per play, 4th in opponent success rate. And the Packers defense is very good as well, which I think we all know at this point. Micah Parsons is, coming off another multi-sack performance. So usually for a total this high, when we're almost touching the 50s, I would want both offenses to be better than both defenses by a wide margin. Not the case. And there's actually a case to be made for both teams that the defenses might be just as good, if not better, than the offenses. So I was actually very surprised to see the totals this high. I will take the under in that one.
Game 2 features the Kansas City Chiefs at the Dallas Cowboys. Currently, Chiefs 3.5-point road faves here. Total of 51.5 in this one. Chiefs winning by 3 at home against the Colts in Week 12. They are now 6-5. Still outside of the AFC playoff picture, IMAC, but 3rd in Super Bowl futures at plus 950. Are you buying or selling Chiefs Super Bowl futures, Iain?
I am quite literally buying. Actually, last week I bought on the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl. The Chiefs are a fascinating case this year of what you kind of get in a short 17-game season in the NFL. Because when you compare this year's Chiefs team to last year's Chiefs team, I actually tweeted out a graphic that I did up of where they rank in certain metrics this year compared to last year. Almost every single major metric, they've been better this year. The two that they're not as good at is opponent success rate, small advantage to last year's Chiefs, and then record. Chiefs 15-2 last year, 5-5 when I sent this out last week. They have been better this year than last year, but it's the late game variance has gone against them for the most part this season. Went their way against the Colts, but overall this season, it has gone against them, whereas last year they won every single score game. And it seemed like, if you remember last year, Ninja, just the amount of late game things that went their way, like a botched snap on a game-winning field goal for the other team, or a penalty in a key spot, or an interception by the other team in a key area. So overall, I think this Chiefs team is better than the one that went 15-2 and went to the Super Bowl last year. So I'm still buying in on the Chiefs. I think they are still kind of in the driver's seat to make it to the playoffs. I don't think they're going to win the AFC West, but if they can get to the playoffs, no one is more experienced once you get to the postseason than Mahomes and Andy Reid. So I see why the betting market still has them near the top of the odds list to win the Super Bowl, and I'm buying in.
Yeah, last year it seemed week in, week out, like here on Oddshark, we'd be talking about the Chiefs have done it again, yada, yada, yada. So I think regression was maybe expected. Interesting nuggets, though, about them potentially being better than they were in 2024. But given these seemingly, in my opinion, IMAC, ridiculous odds, are sportsbooks still afraid of liability on the Kansas City Chiefs?
Yeah, probably. And it's, probably deserving to be so, especially with how wide open the AFC is. Because, what team's better than the Chiefs right now in the AFC definitively? I don't think anyone. Could you say the Bills are better than the Chiefs right now? Not really. Could you say the Colts? No, they just beat the Colts. The Ravens? I know the Ravens have won a few games in a row, but I wouldn't say they're definitively better than the Chiefs. So now if the Chiefs were in the NFC, if they had to play in the same conference as the Rams and the Eagles and the Lions and even the Seahawks, then maybe I'd pause. But the Chiefs have a path to the Super Bowl, and then when you get to the Super Bowl, anything can happen. And that's just a one game, anything can kind of go their way. So I see why.
The Dallas Cowboys had their own comeback in Week 12 against their NFC East division rival Philadelphia Eagles. Dallas has now won 2 games, both straight up and against the spread, since the trade deadline, where they made a little noise, bringing in some reinforcements to that defense. So let me ask you this. Is the Dallas Cowboys, are they now a threat in that NFC East after knocking off the leaders last night?
You know what? I sat down this morning and I tried to think, am I going to believe in this Cowboys team? What side of this argument am I going to be on? Because there's people who believe in the Cowboys, think they can come back and potentially win the division, think they can come back and make a run at the playoffs. I don't think I can believe in them. At the end of the day, they are the Cowboys. I know their defense has looked better since the trade deadline and they got a couple of pieces, but do I still believe in this defense enough to be able to play good enough against elite offenses to be able to take them as far as they need to go? I don't know. I don't think so. I think it's too little too late for the Dallas Cowboys. And let's not forget, it was just a few short weeks ago they got blown out by the Arizona Cardinals. So I think in the NFL, because we only see one game a week, we kind of have a short memory. And we forget that it was 3 games ago they got blown out against the Cardinals. So, no, but if someone were to make the argument for me, the Cowboys are live in that division and can make a run at a playoff spot, I don't know if I'd argue against them, but I'm not going to fall on that side of the argument.
Well, they are 3.5-point home dogs on Thanksgiving. Like we mentioned, the total is 51.5. What do you like in this game, Iain?
I am going to lay the points with the Chiefs. I will take the Chiefs in this spot. Basically, it was the same conversation I had with myself this morning. Do I want to trust in this Cowboys team? I envision a future where on Thursday, on Thanksgiving, we're watching this game, and I'm kicking myself for betting on the Cowboys when the Chiefs go up, 14 points. I thought the Eagles were going to storm through them this past weekend up 21-0 early, but no, and this is, I think, more so than, and it's not necessarily an anti-Cowboys bet. I just think this Chiefs team is now being a little bit underrated in the betting market because they haven't necessarily had the results that they had last year. Where last year I thought they were overrated in the betting market because of the record, but still, like, top 5 team in a lot of areas, even just overall DVOA right now. They're 5th offensive DVOA. They're 3rd. Their defense certainly has some issues, but I do think overall this Chiefs team is far better than the Cowboys, and I think the price is a little short. I think I would set the Chiefs at more like 4.5-point favorites in this one.
Folks, you can get Prop Professor for 50% off for the first month. Prop Professor drops hundreds of plus EV bets every single day, giving you a real shot at finding long-term profit under 54 points in Ravens Bengals, plus 3.7% plus EV at odds of minus 135 over at Hard Rock. Just an example. Sort through plays across the NFL, NBA, college football, and plenty more. It's got tools for arbitrage betting. It's got a great fantasy optimizer. Easily the best bang for buck app on the market compared to its competition. Use the promo code OddsShark50 at checkout and get 50% off for that first month. The third game pits the Cincinnati Bengals at the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens, 7-point home faves. Total, again, 51.5 in this one. Would you be interested in defensive props for the Baltimore Ravens? They look like they've turned the corner since some of their guys got healthy, and they've won 5 in a row now without allowing more than 19 points in any of those. Bengals 3rd in the league in turnovers. Do Ravens defensive props interest you here?
Potentially, yes. I think if I was going to say it depends on who ends up playing quarterback for the Bengals. I think I would definitely target some sacks props for sure. Those are some props that I've taken advantage of a little bit so far this season. I was going to say Joe Flacco would be the more immobile quarterback, but then also a kind of still recovering from an injury. Joe Burrow is not going to be mobile either. So maybe that's how we bet on the Ravens defense because they have been a little bit better now. I would push back on that narrative just a tiny bit because look at the offenses that they faced over the past few weeks. Not exactly the elite offenses in the NFL, but if I were to bet on some defensive props for the Ravens, some sack props could be interesting.
How do you go about betting defensive props like in that market? I know it's not the sexiest or anything, but are you betting things like turnovers or sacks like you mentioned? Are you betting interception props? How intensely are you breaking down matchups on the field? Like, what tips are there if anyone at home wants to bet defensive props?
Yeah, so for interceptions, I think it's extremely difficult, near impossible to actually predict and bet on the exact player that's getting the interception. But like if you want to bet on an opposing quarterback to throw in an interception, which is a prop bet that I've done in the past, don't necessarily just look at how many interceptions a quarterback has thrown so far this season. What you actually want to look at, and Pro Football Reference has this stat, is bad throw percentage. Because that's going to give you a little bit of a better indication of how many just bad throws quarterbacks are throwing, and usually bad throws are what results in interceptions, unless it's a throw that's right off the receiver's hands. So, for example, J.J. McCarthy, second worst bad throw percentage right now, 21.8%. It makes a lot of sense why J.J. McCarthy has thrown so many interceptions. Where if you just look at interception stat by itself, it can be a little bit misleading because there are things like, unlucky plays where quarterback throws the ball, it hits off a receiver's hands and goes right into defensive player's hands. So bad throw percentage would be the stat I'd recommend looking at if you're going to bet interception props. And then for sack props, look at, instead of sack percentages, look at pressure percentage. What's the percentage of a quarterback being pressured? Because sacks sometimes, if a quarterback can evade them or someone can't take them down, those numbers can be a little bit deceiving. So look at pressure percentage to see actually how often there is a chance for a sack from opposing defense.
Let's get to your pick here. Some question marks, like we mentioned, the QB situation with Cincinnati, but Ja'Marr Chase is back, et cetera, et cetera. So some star power on both sides in this game, Ian. So what are you looking at to bet here?
Taking the points with the Bengals. Because this Ravens run, I know they've won these past few weeks, but look at the teams that they've been playing against. They have beat up on the Bears their first week after a bye. Credit to them. I guess the Bears' record was good, but I wouldn't consider the Bears a good team. Beat the Dolphins in a game where really, if you remember the first half, the Dolphins were kind of in it. They just couldn't punch it in once they got down near the goal line. Beat the Vikings, beat the Browns, didn't cover against the Browns. Beat the Jets, didn't cover against the Jets. You can't really ask for an easier stretch of 5 games than the Bears, Dolphins, Vikings, Browns, and Jets. And 2 of those most recent games, they didn't even cover the spread. So I'm not high on this Ravens team. I'm not all of a sudden convinced that they're an elite team like we expect them to be heading into the season. And Lamar Jackson has quietly not played well. Last 3 weeks, he hasn't had a completion percentage over 60%, hasn't thrown for 200 or more yards. He stopped running the ball. He doesn't run the ball anymore he claims it's not because of his injury, but last week, 7 carries, 11 yards. Week before that, 4 carries, 10 yards. This Ravens offense is not the same. I think that injury is still bothering Lamar Jackson. Do they win this game? Sure. Do they cover a touchdown spread against a Bengals team who at least has some weapons offensively? I don't necessarily think so. I'm not ready to buy back in on this Ravens team. I'll take the points at the Bengals.
We've got the under in Packers-Lions. You got the Chiefs as road faves and the Bengals as road dogs. Folks, let us know, agree or disagree with IMAC in the comment section. But IMAC, bring us home here. Last thing before we let you go. Give me a 3-leg Thanksgiving Day parlay. What do you have cooked up?
I love a good Thanksgiving Day parlay. All right, one pick for each here. Starting with Packers Lions, I did not give it a side on that. I gave you the under, obviously. So for the parlay, I will give it a side. Give me Packers to pull off the upset, which is right now plus 122 at the book that I'm looking at. I think that's a true coin flip game. I think that could go either way. The Packers already beat the Lions this season. Why not take them to win outright? You can keep your points for the sake of the parlay. Chiefs, Cowboys, I'll go Patrick Mahomes, 300 plus passing yards. I think Mahomes is kind of getting back to vintage Mahomes lately, and the Cowboys, I think they've done a lot better job at stopping the run lately with those trade deadline acquisitions, but I still think you can throw the ball against this Cowboys team. So I don't think it's beyond beyond your imagination for Patrick Mahomes to just reach 300 yards in that game. And then the Ravens against the Bengals, I will take Isaiah Likely to score a touchdown at around 2-1. The Bengals have given up the most touchdowns to opposing tight ends this season. I believe it's 12 touchdowns to opposing tight ends. I mean, Hunter Henry just scored against them this past weekend. That was another one. So you can take Mark Andrews at a little bit shorter odds, but I'll opt for the little bit longer odds on Isaiah Likely to score against the Bengals. I know that kind of does go against my Bengals pick, but you got to look at how they've defended tight ends, and it has not been well. So Packers to win, Mahomes 300 plus passing yards, Isaiah Likely to score. That comes out to around 17-1. The book I'm looking at as of right now, it's plus 1778. Obviously, odds will vary depending on when you bet it and what book you bet it at. But that's a little 3-leg parlay for Thanksgiving Day at north of 17-1 odds.